Hey there, and welcome back to the Homemade Haven. Welcome back to our garden. Today I want to take you guys on a tour of the garden and show you how everything is growing and progressing as the season goes on. I also want to show you a few different ways of trellising a few of your vegetables as well. So let's go and take a look. So we planted our garden about 6 weeks ago or so. So this is the progress that it has made in that amount of time. We have not really had a ton of rain for our area, which is slightly unusual this time of year being on the coast of North Carolina. We usually have quite a rainy spring and summer season. This past week has been really hot, and we are finally starting to reach our summer temperatures, which are high 90s, and I think we even have a triple digit day mixed in with this week. And we are a very humid area, so we are getting ready to start experiencing that good old sultry, hot southern heat of the summer, which I am not particularly thrilled about, but it does mean that the garden is getting ready to start producing abundantly, and canning and preserving season is among us. So it is exciting to be able to preserve and harvest some of the food that we grow here to last us throughout the year, so we can have the taste of summertime all year long. So here in this first bed we have several different kinds of herbs and flowers. I like lots of smelly, aromatic, and beautiful herbs that are great for our pollinator friends, and also herbs that are good for deterring pests, which we have been battling. I'll show you here in a minute the kind of bug damage that we've had. So we have some beautiful peppermint over here, some basil, some lavender, some parsley, some lemon thyme, sage, lemongrass, and several different kinds of flowers. We've got some zinnias, some Johnny jump ups, which haven't started flowering yet, and some marigolds here. And then in this next bed, we've got a couple different types of beans. We've got our bush bean variety here, which are our lima beans. They have not started producing yet, but there are some little tiny starts of some beans, so hopefully soon we'll start having some of those to harvest. And then down the middle of the bed, I've put some garlic cloves that are starting to come up. We've got a lantana and some bee balm over there for our pollinators. And then here, starting to grow up the trellis, we've got a pole bean variety of green beans. These are rattlesnake beans, and they are some of our favorite. We actually put this hoop trellis here so that we could grow a green bean tunnel. The other box on this side, the beans did not grow in. I don't know if there was something wrong with the soil. I actually planted them twice, and they just did not do great over there. So I think our soil ratio was off or something, I'm not sure. So we're just gonna let this one side continue to grow up and over. And then in this other box here, we have just planted wildflowers, and we have some more marigolds there on the outside. So these have not started sprouting just yet, but they're getting there. There's several sunflowers and zinnias and all kinds of stuff that our bees and butterflies and hopefully hummingbird friends will really enjoy. I'll show you what a successful green bean tunnel looks like in just a second on the opposite side of the garden, but first check out this pumpkin bed. Now, if you watched my plant with me video, you might remember me saying that 4 pumpkin plants in this area might be a little bit too much, and I'm thinking that I made the right prediction. These have just grown way big and outside of the box, and the funny thing is I actually thinned these out. Every seed that I planted came up, so I actually have 3 more pumpkin plants that I decided to just plant out on our land in the woods just to see if they'd keep going, because I always hate throwing away plants, especially if they're looking really good. And they are thriving as well, so we are going to have mass amounts of pumpkins. But it is beautiful, it's happy. I plan to can and preserve these to put up for our dogs. Our dogs eat pumpkin with their dinner every night. It's good for their digestion. And of course we love pumpkin. We make pumpkin pies and pumpkin soups or whatever you can make pumpkin with, and they're just great for trading. Everybody loves pumpkins. So you never can have too many pumpkins, right? Up next we have our okra and cucumber bed here. Down this row we've got our okra plants, which are starting to put on little bitty okras. And here in the middle we have added some bee balm, which is doing beautifully. We've got a little tiny bee bath here that we've put some water in for our bees and pollinator friends. And we've put some little rocks inside so that they can sit and have a drink if they need one. And then we've got some zinnias down the middle for our pollinators as well. And then we have another one of our tunnel trellises here for our cucumbers. On this side we have cucumbers that are a white flesh variety. They are called punakira, and they are actually delicious. They're known for being very drought tolerant, and they are not supposed to get bitter. We actually grew these for the first time last year, and they're excellent for pickling or however you normally would have cucumbers. And then on this side we have another variety of cucumber. This is our Japanese long cucumber or suyo variety. They are thriving as well, and you can see that soon this arch is going to be filled with cucumber leaves, so it'll be nice and cool and shaded to pick in the heat of the summer. And the last box over here on this side, we have just a mirror of the box that I just showed you. So more cucumbers growing up on this tunnel on this side, and we've got some flowers in here. We've got some nasturtiums and zinnias and some more okra here on this side. We have not planted in these very last boxes just yet still. We've got a tree stump back here on the very back corner that we need to have removed. We did try to take it out with our tractor ourselves, but we just didn't have enough power on the tractor, so we're gonna have to hire that out. So we're just waiting until somebody can get over here and do that for us before we plant these back beds, which is not a big deal. They can wait until we are ready to plant for fall. I think we have plenty here in the garden growing already to keep us busy preserving this summer without adding a few more things. So again, an empty bed here. And then the next bed on the other side is our sweet potatoes. They're doing really good, very lovely. The foliage looks great, so we're excited about those. And then next to that we have our watermelon bed, which has really just started taking off this past week with the heat that we have been experiencing. So we are starting to get some little blossoms on here, and it's starting to fill in and vine and take over. I'm fully expecting this to look like our pumpkin bed here soon, and hopefully we'll have some really tasty, delicious watermelons here soon. And next we have our tomato bed. In this bed we have 4 different varieties of tomatoes, and they are all indeterminate varieties, meaning that they are going to just keep growing and growing and growing as long as you let them grow. So we had to come up with some kind of trellis system that could help support our tomatoes without going a million feet in the air, because I am only 5'1" and our beds are 2 foot tall. So that doesn't leave a whole lot of growing space before I can't reach them anymore. So we actually saw this system on a couple of other YouTube channels and thought this is a great solution to our problem. We first started off with putting up some T-posts and just stringing some heavy gauge wire across them to see if we could hook these tomatoes onto that, but realized that the wire was not strong enough and that all of the hooks would eventually start sagging and leaning towards the middle, which would cluster all of our tomato plants together, which would then defeat the purpose of having trellises. So we went with this more sturdy wooden structure, which was relatively easy to install. All we did was put our 4x4 posts on either side of the beds, and then we secured it with the super quick foam set that locked these posts into place. And then we put two 2x6s across the top of it, along with some furring strips that run perpendicular to the 2x6s to give us some arms of support. And then we just went back with some eye hooks and put them in place. We've added a few since we first put this up because we've had some tomatoes that have branched out. We've got some cherry tomatoes that we don't want to cut all of the suckers off of because that's where you get the majority of your fruit. So we've added some extra eye hooks and adding more leads to those certain plants. So the way that we are trellising these tomatoes is what's called a lower and lean method. We use these hooks that have twine wrapped around them to attach to our plants with tomato clips, which I will show you a close-up of what those look like. You can find these on Amazon or on any gardening website, I'm sure. But all we did was attach the twine to the very base of the tomato plant. We have pruned them to where it is just a vine exposed at the very bottom, and we just wrapped the twine around each lead of the tomato plant, added another clip for support at the top, and hooked these hooks up to the eye hooks up top. And as these plants continue to grow, all we'll do is just take the hook down, let a little bit more twine out, wrap it around the top of the plant, and then go to the bottom of the plant and continue to prune to where it is essentially just a tomato vine rather than a bush. And as it gets taller and longer, we'll just lay the vine down into the bed to where it's just bare vines that are touching the bed, and all of the foliage and fruit are still left up off of the ground and attached to the top of our trellis. And we'll show you how we do this throughout the summer as these plants continue to grow and produce. Whew, it is hot out here today. We are up to a real feel of over 100 today, and thankfully the sun didn't really come out today. It's been really overcast, but the humidity is serious. Everything is sweating, including me and my camera. But thankfully the sun is not out because I cannot imagine how much hotter it would feel if the sun was out today. On to our next bed. We have one side of our hoop trellis here with more green beans. And over on this other side, I did plant some sweet bell peppers and some borage and some more garlic. And we put a cinnamon basil right in the middle for our pollinators just because it was pretty, had pretty little flowers. But the grasshoppers and other insects have got to these plants on this side and have really sawed them down. So I might be starting something else inside and growing them till they're a little more mature, and then trying to plant those out here again in a couple of weeks. I've also added a bird bath with a solar fountain, which has quit on me, so I'm going to have to order another one. But we are trying to bring the birds in to help us take care of the excessive grasshoppers, because if you've ever had a grasshopper in your garden, you know how much damage they can do in a short amount of time. So we are trying to encourage our bird friends to come in, have a little bath, have a little snack at our bird feeder, and have an extra little munch on these grasshoppers and other bugs that have been putting damage on our plants. And here is our more successful bean tunnel. We are growing more rattlesnake green beans here on this side. Like I said, it's our favorite variety, so why stray away from it? They're doing very well. They're starting to reach across and grow onto the other side, so this is spilling in quite nicely. We have had problems with bean beetles this season, terribly. So I've been out here morning and night with my jar full of neem oil and insecticidal soap and picking these things off and throwing in this jar several times a day. I've sprinkled out some diatomaceous earth and some other organic methods of getting rid of pests. We're trying everything we can do to ensure that we're still going to have a great harvest this season, and I think we're doing okay. There's still lots of bugs left, and I'm sure there always will be. So these trellises are super easy to install. All they are 16-foot cattle panels or hog panels. You can find these at your local Tractor Supply. Sometimes Lowe's or Home Depot carry them, or your other farm supply stores. These are 4 foot wide and 16 foot long. Like I said, all we've done is just wedge them between these two beds to create this arch. Our beds are so tall and so full that we did not have to put any kind of stabilization here. If your beds are shorter and maybe a little more flimsy, you're going to want to add some T-posts or some kind of something to secure your panels too, so that they don't bow out and push your beds apart. Like I said, we didn't have to do that because our beds are so massive and heavy duty. So these are basically just wedged in here, and we did add some little nailed in hoops that came with our drip work system, just as an added measure, so that when you're walking by you don't catch your leg on them and move it or anything like that. And then we did add some zip ties in the middle of the trellises to connect them so that they don't come apart and tear our beams at any point in time. But that's really it. These are super simple. I would say they're pretty cheap, but the prices keep going up just like everything else. So we paid about $30 or $35 a piece per panel, but these panels will last forever. And if you don't always use them for a garden trellis, you can use them for so many other things. All right, so on the other side of our bean tunnel here, we've got more bush lima beans behind them and a few different kinds of pollinator flowers. We've got some more cinnamon basil and some bee balm that's growing in behind it. We've tried to really sprinkle in these flowers to bring our pollinators to pollinate our plants for us. It did take them a little while in the beginning because this is a brand new garden area. They weren't aware that it was here, but we're starting to get more and more established, and every day I'm seeing more and more bees and butterflies and garden-friendly insects in here. So I think we're on the right track. And we've finally made it to our very last bed. We're back at the front of the garden with another herb bed. We've got some dill that is growing wild and crazy. I've let it go to flower because, like I said, we're trying to bring in those beneficial insects, and they love these little flowers on herbs. So I try to let some go ahead and flower and seed out for them. We will save seeds from this for our garden next year. And then we have some rosemary, some more flowers, zinnias, marigolds, Johnny jump ups. We've got a stevia plant, oregano, lavender, parsley, and some yarrow that are growing in this bed. And they all seem to be happy and looking beautiful. All right, so that's it. That is a full tour of our garden here in June, summer of 2022. We are, like I said, about 6 weeks or so after planting, and this is what has happened so far. I've actually just picked a whole handful of cucumbers. We have harvested several of our herbs, but that's really about it so far. We've got tons of cucumbers that are coming in. Our beans are starting to flower now, so we're going to start having beans come in by the buckets. That's usually how they like to do. And we've got several tomatoes and other things that are starting to ripen up and mature. So like I said, preserving season is here and we are going to be busy. We still do have a little bit of work to do here in the garden. We want to go ahead and cover the ground as we have done under the trellises already. We want to put down the black tarp to cover all of the ground that could grow weeds. And we want to put wood chips down on top of it so that we don't have to worry about weed eating or mowing grass in here. We are just trying to find a good source for wood chips in our area. And we also have to put up a more permanent fence around. Right now we have an electric net that's ran around it to try and help deter the deer and other wildlife from coming in. And so far so good. We haven't had any intruders. We did have a baby rabbit come into the garden and get stranded. We're going to do a video on that here soon and show you what happened with him. But those are a few more things that we want to do here in the garden to complete this area. It's came a long way since it first began, so if you're interested in seeing what the space started off like, go and click on our playlist entitled Gardening to see exactly how much progress the space has made. We're super excited about it, and we're excited to see the growth that continues here. We're excited to share it with you guys. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. We have lots going on here on the homestead, and we look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Until then, we'll see you later. Bye.